Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Kevin Brockway joining me. Here's Jim Coyle with you as always. Appreciate you joining along. Plenty to get to today. Mike DeCourcy will join us. We'll also talk to Chronic Hoosier. Plenty to talk about. Indiana getting ready to, take on one of their next to last non-con games tomorrow night before they head into conference play. It's just kind of that time of year, Kevin, when just trying to get through the season right now. It's that Christmas time of year where they're finished with finals. It's kind of a break. You'd love to give the guys a break, but you really can't. It's a weird kind of time for a college basketball player.
Well, that's why you schedule teams like Northern Kentucky, the Northern Kentucky Norse, coached by Darren Horn, who I remembered back from the South Carolina days. He coached the Gamecocks. He also coached Western Kentucky. Courtney Lee back in the day, pretty good ball player who went on to a pro career. So Darren has accomplished, he's an accomplished coach, but they are kind of been up and down this year, Northern Kentucky. But don't forget, Stan Heath came in early in the season, another former SEC coach at Eastern Michigan, and really gave Indiana a game. So sometimes when you have those decent coaches, those experienced coaches that can come in with smaller teams, they can create little problems here and there. So it'll be interesting to see. I know Mike Woodson on his radio show talked about getting off to a better start offensively. He was really disappointed with how they started that game against Notre Dame on the offensive end of the floor. And I think that's one of the things that they're going to be looking for is, just really being crisp and efficient offensively from the jump.
It was kind of odd because Indiana had – one of the things this season they had consistently done was get off to good starts and then have to worry about it on the backside. But this game, it was kind of a reverse fashion where they had to keep coming from behind, so to speak, until they got things together. But it was a good test for them because, like I said, it was a different type of game for them. Although it was, again, another opponent that's not very formidable that gave them a test.
Yeah, if you look at, the season, it's been about putting two good halves together, right? And you looked at, St. John's, they had a great first half and then kind of held on in the end. Wisconsin, they had a great first half, kind of held on in the end. Syracuse, they had a bad first half and then made a charge in the second half. So it's been that kind of a season where, putting two good halves together. I think the thing about the Notre Dame game that was impressive was the defense and the 3-point shooting, 8 of 20. Which was pretty good. And when you can do that, and Parker Stewart can make some outside shots, and he's shooting 49% from three, and you've got a little something. You got a little more balance to the offense that really was lacking at the end of the Archie Miller era. Now you've got a team that can score outside, score inside a little bit, opens up the floor a little bit for Race Thompson and Trace to do work, and I think that that's bode well. They're 37.3% from three right now. And if they could keep up that percentage, you take a look at the last 3 years under Archie, they were in the neighborhood of 30 to 33%. So if you can get that 37%, that's going to really bode well in Big Ten play.
Yeah, the biggest concern now is going to be whether games are played or not because of COVID. So many cancellations. DePaul forfeit to Seton Hall. Kentucky has to get another opponent, but they're going to play Western Kentucky. A team that just beat Louisville. So that is kind of ironic. But let's see. Trying to see if any others that are jumping out to me. Seton Hall as well.
Wisconsin is looking for a team because Morgan State. I thought Kentucky was going to play Wisconsin, but for Kentucky to play WKU, I think that's a nice gesture. Is that game being played at Rupp or is that being played in Bowling Green?
Well, I'm pretty certain it's going to be in Rupp. There's no way they're going to go to Bowling Green to play down there.
Well, hopefully, and John Calipari's been pretty good. You can say a lot of things about John Calipari, but he's been pretty good about this. Hopefully,
like he doesn't play road games?
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully he will tie in that game. He will tie in some kind of relief for Bowling Green.
Well, they're supposed to. That's actually part of it. It's already part of it. It's tied into the tornado relief. So, yeah, well, let's give them some credit for that, doing that. They are tying that into the tornado relief in Western Kentucky down there for those people. So good for them. Let's see what else is going on in the world of college basketball. The Memphis and Tennessee game also affected lots of games that were scheduled. Didn't happen.
Rutgers right now is on pause. Ohio State's on pause, and Penn State's on pause. That's 3 Big Ten teams right now that are on pause due to COVID. And what's really interesting is the fact that look at Indiana's first 2 Big Ten games, Penn State and Ohio State, 2 teams that might be off rhythm a little bit from this pause. In terms of coming back, so that could bode in Indiana's favor. Now, of course, Indiana's got to stay away from the virus too. All these Big Ten teams do. They're going to have to be extra careful here going forward because it's really going around the Midwest and the rest of the country. Trust me, I know. But it got me earlier this month, but I'm out of quarantine. I'm feeling much better, but it's really going around the whole country right now, and you gotta be careful. I mean, out there and get the vaccines because the vaccines are going to help you when you have it get over it quicker, and get the boosters if you can, and mask up. And I think we're going to start to see a lot of these mask mandates come back throughout the country.
You think?
And vaccination mandates too. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Until it becomes just the flu, we'll see. But it continues to affect college and professional sports. We'll see. How much it will impact. I wonder how. Is it going to impact the bowl games that are coming up? All the bowl games are about to start with this COVID hitting. They've got enough problems with players defecting, not playing because of this or that, protecting themselves for the NFL draft. I'm wondering what's going to be worse for the upcoming bowl games, COVID or defecting players.
And let's not forget the BCS championship game is going to be in Indy on January 10th. How do you, what kind of precautions are they going to take? That might be a good story to look into and see what they're doing up there, and if they're altering any of their plans because they're planning big events, big festivals leading up to that event.
I wonder if a team like Indiana, who did a marvelous job testing in football season last year. They were kind of ahead of the curve. If they don't go back to that just to have as much protection as possible, because that could benefit them in this basketball season. Not having games canceled, that's a forfeit in the Big Ten this year. So it's a big matter. It matters. So if you can stay healthy.
I will say this. What is interesting about it is that, and I read this, Matt Norlander from CBSSports.com talked about this. If you have a forfeit, even if it's a win or a loss, it is not recognized on the team sheets for the NCAA selection committee. They just kind of void it. So does it hurt you? I don't know how much because they're factoring that in and the NCAA tournament selection committee. But say if it's, a team that, a winnable team, or say if it's a team that could really help your resume, I'm sure it will have some kind of an impact.
Yeah, that's a good point because they like to look at all of that stuff. And they like to make connections that other people don't like to make. That's the one good thing we can always look forward to. Maybe an Indiana-Kentucky game in the offing, something like that. That's how you can hopefully find an NCAA.
Or we always see that. We always, the last few years, even though Indiana didn't make it, we always saw that Indiana-Houston, right, projection also because of Kelvin Sampson. That's another one that they seem to like to throw out there. But Indiana-Kentucky, Indiana-Houston. It would be interesting. Indy Nation, Indianapolis knows what to do. Look how that's a good point. They did have one game wiped out. Remember, VCU was the one team. Remember against Oregon, they and they moved it forward. But Indianapolis is a big event town, and they handle it well. And I'm sure they'll do the same for this event.
They're one of the biggest, if not the best, big event towns in the country. I mean, they're used to handling these things at one time. Just look at Saturday. Saturday was a pedestrian day in Indianapolis, but going on was Indiana playing Notre Dame, Purdue playing Butler, and the Indianapolis Colts playing in a very, very important game against the Patriots.
Yeah,
That was all in one day in Indianapolis.
It was a lively atmosphere in the city throughout that whole day, and the Colts came up with a huge win as beating the Patriots, beating Bill Belichick and those Pats and snapping their losing streak. But yeah, it was a fun atmosphere. They've done a lot of nice stuff with Gainbridge too. Walking around that arena, the renovations are beautiful. It'll be fun to see if the Big Ten tournament will be there, and then NCAA tournament first round will be there. So March will be very busy up there as well.
Noah Vonleh, Tim T points out that signed with the Shanghai Sharks of China's top league. So I didn't realize he was out of the league.
Did you ever remember the movie Shanghai Surprise with Sean Penn and Madonna back in the 80s?
No, I hear a word like
whenever I hear Shanghai,
I'm thinking Jackie Chan.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Or a bad meal. That sounds like some food poisoning waiting to happen. A little Shanghai Surprise. Yeah. Bad day, bad hangover.
You are a true sit-down comedian, Jim Coyle.
Juwan Morgan on the move. He's joined his second former Indiana teammate in the NBA. How crazy is this? He was a member of the Boston Celtics. Well, actually, originally was a member of the Utah Jazz, then a member of the Boston Celtics, a teammate of you know him,
Romeo Langford.
Romeo Langford, and now he's off to former NBA champions, the Toronto Raptors with OG. Yep. I mean, that is his true OG, as a matter of fact. Those two, how ironic is this? Those two came from someplace out in Missouri. Tom Crean goes out to to look at Juwan Morgan at like an AAU, one of the AAU events that was going on, one of the events. He watches Juwan, but sees OG, who's not listed on any of the things. And he says, who is this guy? And so he has to go get someone to get information about him. And then that's how Indiana ended up recruiting OG Anunoby. And so you've got to give Tom Crean some credit to have seen this guy, OG, at that event, and to see that raw talent and to know that it was that good. Because he could sure hit some home runs, and man, he could sure swing and whiff. It was so weird on some of the hits and misses he had as a recruiter. Mind-boggling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was interesting, too, how he recruited Indiana as a national program, went around the country, got guys like Juwan Morgan from Missouri and stuff, and that drew the ire of some of the Indiana high school coaches, right? And now, Archie went the Indiana route, and I think Woodson is kind of going with a little bit of a mix right now. But Woodson was in Florida yesterday watching Jalen Hood-Schifino down there in Fort Myers at the City of Palms, and that's going to be a big guy going forward, I think, for the Hoosiers. But a guy that is playing prep ball in Florida, and I think he's from Pittsburgh, that area.
It's simple as this. I've always said that you could probably recruit just the state of Indiana and possibly win a national championship. I'm not certain if that's true all the time, just because the pieces have to always be there. While Purdue has recruited a heck out of Indiana, their top pieces, where's Jaden Ivey from? I don't know.
Culver Academy. He's an Indiana kid, but I don't know if he's necessarily from Indiana, but he went to Culver, and Travion Williams is from Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah. And Edie.
And Edie is from Toronto. He's Canadian. Yeah.
Yeah. So but the thing is, you can recruit the hell out of Indiana and get their best players. And I think you need to do that because Indiana produces as a state and per capita, probably the best talent in the country. So you find the best players you can get out of Indiana, but then you also have to fill it in with the other guys, like exactly what they're doing. You go get the best of the best. Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, The teams, Baylor, they're not. You have to just simply have, I don't care what sport it is. You have to simply have the best players on the field, on the court, whatever, the best coaching. That's how you're going to win. It's that simple. I don't care where they come from, but I think for an Indiana, you should be able to have a very, very nice mix simply because Indiana produces so much talent. But you have to go outside and get the best. Because there may be a guy in Indiana who is an A player, but there may be this guy at IMG that's an A player or A plus player. Which one do you want? You want the A player just because he's from Indiana, or you want the A plus player because he's better?
That's and you also have to get the right guys from Indiana too. You have to evaluate and make sure that the guys that you're getting project well to the Big Ten level, and certainly. They did that with guys like Trace Jackson Davis. The jury is out on some of the younger guys, Christian Lander, Anthony Leal, and, Trey Galloway. Certainly time will tell with them, what kind of future they have in this program, too. Right now, as sophomores, not getting minutes, and Galloway's hurt. But those three guys, I know, were guys that, you thought coming in were going to, carve out pretty good roles. And I think with the coaching change and some other things have not gotten their footing in terms of, consistent playing time yet.
Yep. And lots of talk of Christian Lander, and I don't understand the talk of Christian Lander. I really don't. Why the questions? Why the constant questions about his minutes? I don't get it personally. I've been around sports long enough, and I've played sports long enough to know that if I'm good enough, or if I am needed, I'm going to be out there. I'm playing.
I think we saw at the end of the Syracuse game, he's not ready. And, and the issue is, as Don Fisher said yesterday on your show, is mostly defense, but even running a team too, a little bit, he's just not quite there yet. He shows flashes of potential, but, if you keep, a good attitude and you learn and you stick it out, maybe it'll work out. If not, then, maybe he goes somewhere else.
Well, and that's, there's rumors, because that's what people like to do, talk about rumors of him transferring, blah, blah. You know what? I'm not going to get into all that. I'm not chasing that. If he does, he does. But you know what? If he doesn't, he's smarter, because he has under an NBA coach right now. If your goal is to get to eventually that next level, then you have to listen to this guy. Maybe you have to go a little harder. Maybe it's the journey is a little farther for you. That doesn't mean you, just because of that, you transfer. How the hell is that going to help you? Just because you're not getting time? Well, you're not getting time because you're not ready for the big time. I'm just prognosticating there. I don't know that, but I'm just guessing. So there's that. I think we're past a break. I'm going to fire my producer there, Keegan. He's just
not see my banner because I put it up 3 times.
Oh, it's up there now. I see
it's
you now.
It's been up there for a while, yeah.
All right, brother. You're good. All right, I appreciate you. We got a break. We're going to hit. We're coming back right after this. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Kevin Brockway is with us. We've got lots more coming right after this.
I flashed it up there 3 times, and I swore he looked at it.
Yeah, no, I saw you.
I just looked down
earlier. I remember one time I was when I was in college, I had to take a day labor job to make extra money. It was during a hurricane, and there was this guy who we were driving back. This older black guy. He kind of had this like Morgan Freeman look to him, and his voice too. And he had this tall boy, and he's drinking it with a straw. And I said, you're gonna get a buzz drinking a beer from a straw like that. And he goes like in this Morgan Freeman voice. He goes, "Son, I've been drinking beer from a straw for 36 years."
That's funny.
Buzz. Hey, Jim, I'm gonna test this to see if you can hear it.
in this ball game where Xavier Johnson was booed, and I know that upset you.
Yeah, that irritates me.
Could you hear that?
Yeah.
You can?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. It's about a minute and a half long clip.
Perfect.
That's good. Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
I mean, I just went to the clip and hit play. It's not some complicated thing that John usually does. I'll bring Mike in.
Well, hello, Mr. Mike.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Good.
Doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm good.
Jim, just let me know when you want that clip and I'll play it.
That'll probably be
That's
a couple
fine.
segments now.
That's fine.
Oh, Mike's got to be happy. His Steelers win again.
It was good. It was a little harrowing, but it was good.
Isn't it always?
Yes, for them it always is. Yes.
Here of late?
Oh, no, it's been years of that.
Let's see. What are the standings? Oh, there are.
I think the Bengals might be in first.
Yeah, the Bengals are in first, tied with the Ravens, but the Bengals have the tiebreaker.
Got 28 seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Tuesday, as always. Kevin Brockway co-hosting with CNHI Papers, and joined as always by senior editor from the Sporting News, Mike DeCourcy, also Fox and BTN studio host. Mike, how are you, sir?
I am well, Jim. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm sure you are well. As I saw the Steelers had added another, as you properly called it, harrowing victory over the weekend.
Yes, it was excruciating but wonderful. And then last night in rooting against the Browns, it was very much the same. Not usually a Raiders fan, but trying to win the AFC North requires rooting against others who occupy the same space, and so the Raiders took it down to the very end as well, including the multiple field goal attempts to get the winner.
So who ended up winning that game? I missed that one.
The Raiders did. The Raiders had a big lead, the 10-0 lead, and they fumbled and gave Cleveland a chance to score a touchdown, and Cleveland ultimately scored a second on a full field drive, and so the Raiders had to come back with, I think they got the ball with 1:45 at no timeouts and drove down to the winning field goal.
Were the Browns down to like their third string quarterback because Baker Mayfield and Keenum were both out because of COVID?
That is correct. That is correct. They were down. The quarterback who played for them.
Virgin winner.
He was a practice squad guy going into the week, and he did a good job. Las Vegas did not do much of a job to pressure him. They were not very effective at that, and so he got a chance to sit back and pick things apart a little bit. But ultimately, the Raiders were able to pull it out.
Was that the game that started at 5:00?
Yes, started at 5.
No wonder I missed that. I mean, why would they do that? Why would they do that, especially Las Vegas?
Well, they did it because they felt compelled to move the game because
with
of
the doubleheader,
and they did not want to stand. You know, they certainly weren't going to stamp on. I mean, remember what ESPN pays for Monday Night Football?
Right.
It's one of the highest rights package the NFL gets. So they weren't going to stamp on that. So they had to start the game when they were fairly sure it would be over before the second game started.
Well, they should have switched games.
I think ESPN would have taken that deal.
Because the Bears, they suck, and I hate to say that because I'm not a Bears fan at all, but I love watching Justin Fields play. He's just fun to watch because you think like they always kind of have a chance, kind of. Not really, but a little bit. But he's fun to watch. He's going to be a great quarterback if they get some talent around him.
Right. Yeah, that's a big part of it. And how you're coached is a big part of it. I've seen guys that I thought had a real shot that were in the wrong circumstance. And once you get broken in the NFL, it's very rare to put it back together. You could count on one hand the number of quarterbacks who were broken initially. I think Ryan Tannehill might be an example of that. I'm not sure he's a great quarterback, but he's certainly a winning quarterback in the NFL. But very few are able to do what he's done. So, the Fields needs to get people around him and the right coaches around him as quickly as possible.
How about the Colts right now, as of now, in the playoffs? After that not only an 0-3 start, they lose a game to the Titans that they could have won. They lose a game to the Ravens that they could have won. So there are 5 freaking games off of that. What are they now? 8-6, I think. There's 5 games off of those 6 that, boy, could have easily went the other way. And I know a lot of people can say that, but
you can't. I was going to say, Jim, a lot of people can say could have won. There's a lot of could have in the NFL. There's a difference between could have and should have.
Right.
And I did not see the first game of those, but I watched the Ravens game, and that was a should have. I mean, there was no reason for them to lose that game. They had that game in complete control. And again, if they made a field goal, of course, their field goal kicker was injured, their regular, and so they had a backup kicker in there and got a field goal blocked. And if they make that field goal, the game is basically over. So I think that one you can put in the should have column more so than the could have. The NFL is littered with could have because that's the nature of the sport. It's not the nature of the sport, the nature of the league. They do a great job of keeping teams competitive, and a lot of it is as well as strategic. NFL coaches play the margins. They don't gamble much because they understand that the other side is reasonably well equipped, and if you gamble and fail, then it's kind of like you're betting against the house.
And your Steelers, where are they sitting right now as far as the playoffs?
They're in third place. Basically, what the Steelers need to do, I think,
what's called in the hunt. Never.
Yeah.
It's a nice place to be, but not a great place to be.
Yeah. Well, it's better than where like the Jaguars are. I think that's, it should say not the Jaguars. That's what the little.
Are the Jaguars still an official member of the NFL?
There you go. Yes. I think they are. But basically the Steelers play the Chiefs this weekend. I don't think there's a realistic chance they're going to win that game, but they need to at least finish 2-1 and hope for a lot of help from others. And they can if everybody else goes 1-2 and they go 2-1, then they'll win the division because they have the ultimate tiebreaker is that they don't have the loss, they have a tie. So they are not going to finish with the same record more than likely as anyone in their division. So if they can do that, then they can get there. But I don't know if that'll happen. But people who say they have to win out, it's not, they're not going to win out. I mean, it's not going to happen. It's just not a realistic scenario. But them going 2-1 while everybody else goes 1-2, which would mean everybody else finishing basically 9-8 and them finishing 9-7-1. So that would be their chance.
Like, how has Pittsburgh's pass defense been lately? Because I have my fantasy football playoffs and Patrick Mahomes is my quarterback playing against them this Sunday.
Pass defense has been okay. Rush defense has been a mess. That's the problem for you in that game is, will Kansas City even want to put the ball in the air if they can run it comfortably on the ground? The last 4 teams in a row have essentially put up 200 yards rushing against the Steelers. Their defensive line is a train wreck. Injuries and absences and their depth just isn't there. And so the teams have really run the ball on them effectively. So I don't know whether the Chiefs will need Mahomes to do a lot in that regard.
Let's see. So we look forward to, how far away are we from the playoffs yet? How many weeks out?
We have 3 weeks left of the regular season. Everybody will be in action for the next 3 weeks, presumably. COVID permitting, and so we are 3 weeks out, and then the playoffs will start, I think, January 16. That weekend is 15, 16, right around there, and I think the Colts have a great shot. There was a question that appeared on the screen. Taylor as a possible MVP candidate. I'm all in on that. I think the game this season, I'm a believer that running the football, if you do it effectively, I'm not, I think it needs to be appreciated the same as a quarterback, or at least not dismissed. Maybe not the same as a quarterback. Quarterback's the most important position on the field, obviously. But there hasn't been any quarterback who's been so great, so consistently. Kyler Murray at one point in the season, sure. Has Aaron Rodgers had a lot of great weeks? Sure, but a lot that were just okay. I mean, he was just okay this past weekend. If the Colts continue on the course they are right now, and Taylor continues to move in the direction that he has, then absolutely he would probably get my vote. At this point, he would get my vote. 3 weeks can change a lot, just as the last week of the Heisman changed that vote when Alabama was able to rise up and beat Georgia. I thought going into that weekend there was no clear candidate, and coming out there was an obvious winner. So the next 3 weekends will say a lot, but I think it's a great question about Taylor, and I think that right now, if I had a vote, and I don't, by the way, but if I did, he would get mine.
And kind of unusual for a running back now to really be in that high in that conversation, but man, he to me is the leader, and I think he really put an exclamation point on that with that big 67-yard game sealing touchdown run against the Patriots at the end when the Colts really needed it. That was just more of Jonathan Taylor, and it's been Jonathan Taylor all year long. He has just led this team, and not to say that Carson Wentz hasn't done a good job managing the offense for them, because he has, especially when he has T.Y. Hilton and they have their weapons. But Jonathan Taylor has just been a consistent force all season, and doing it for a team that is, it's like Anthony Thompson when he was in the Heisman for an Indiana team. It wasn't quite as good of the teams that they're playing, but man, he's exceeding what when you do it against better teams, to me, that sticks out more. So
right,
I think he should get it.
Yeah, it was kind of his Heisman moment, right? That 67-yard run. That's what that was it, right? But I do think, like I said, those 3 weeks still can change a lot. If Aaron Rodgers passes for 400 yards the next 3 weeks, maybe it changes it. Those kinds of things can have an impact, I believe. As I said, we really didn't know who a good Heisman candidate was going into Championship Saturday, December 4th. And then by the end of the day, there was no question who the winner was. So those 3 weeks matter a lot. I can't say that that Jonathan Taylor should get it. If the voting were today, he should get it. But we still have a lot of football left to be played, as they love to say.
Absolutely, especially in this league, whether it's the Colts or the Steelers or whomever that are fighting to get into playoffs. What's going to be harder for them to get in, their own play or COVID this season?
I think
as an opponent,
I think we have to take into account what happened a year ago. There was no vaccine. There was nothing there was basically nothing standing between the virus and us. And yet the entire season was played. There was not a single game that was eliminated from the 2020 NFL season. So I have no doubt the NFL season will be completed in its entirety. Now, they may have to do as they did yesterday. And today, again, we'll have more games today that will still be from the prior week. They may have to do more of that. That there's no question that's a possibility, that rearranging games may have to come, but they will complete the season. And again, the mitigations or the conditions, maybe there will be in certain places reduced capacity or something like that. That's a possibility. The moving of games, rearranging to go to Monday, Tuesday, whatever, that's a possibility. But not playing, to me, is not a possibility. There's no way they will let that happen. If they could complete the entire season when there was no vaccine available and fewer treatments and all the rest, then there's no question in my mind they're going to complete this season in full.
I agree. I mean, that's the NFL is the ultimate professional of all the sports that there are. They are. I think that they consider themselves the ultimate, and they run it like a Fortune 500 company that they actually are. And yeah, losing is not acceptable. Not playing is not acceptable. TV dates must be filled, baby.
Yeah, that's what they'll do. And, and then, of course, yesterday's game, the Browns game, was put on the NFL Network because, obviously NBC and CBS and Fox. I guess that would have been a CBS game. I mean, they're not going to necessarily break into CBS programming to put that game on, but they're going to make it available in the home markets, and they're going to put it on the NFL Network so the rest of us can see it.
Some great games this week, as a matter of fact, deciding games. You've got Tennessee hosting San Francisco, 9-5 Tennessee hosting an 8-6 San Francisco team. Of course, Tennessee holding on to their division lead over the Colts. One game behind them, Indianapolis at 8-6 travels to a 10-4 Arizona team. That'll be a tough one. Then you've got Baltimore 8-6 traveling to Cincinnati at 8-6. So those are two teams that are fighting. Buffalo at 8-6 travels to New England 9-5. I mean, these are some big time games, deciding type games this week that are very important.
And then you have the Jets and the Jaguars for the number 3 overall pick.
I'm sorry. Did you say the Jets? Did you mention the Jets?
Yeah.
What should we call that? The toilet bowl?
Oh gosh.
There are 5 wins and 23 losses between them. They're 5-23 combined.
Yeah.
It's not easy to be bad in today's NFL, but they're pulling it off.
And no Urban Meyer on the sideline. Yeah.
The Jets are at home. You're gonna have to think that the Jets are gonna get that win. So sorry about that, Kevin.
Yeah.
But there you go. Yeah, that's it. But the other games are, uber important, those ones I mentioned. It's like the NFL planned it that way or something.
Well, they do like to try to snap out the big games around the holidays for sure.
Let's see, college football, a lot going on. Talk about the bowl games about to start as we are in this Christmas week. COVID that's where COVID could play an issue and affect teams. We've seen a lot of colleges, but it's not just COVID. They've got guys that are opting out too. And I don't know what's worse on a team, COVID or a player or 2 or 3 opting out to not play because of the NFL draft or whatever the case may be.
Well, I think COVID's worse because it's contagious.
Well, it's worse as it says. I mean, I don't know how
not quite as much. Yeah. But I think this what we saw with Kenny Pickett, the Pitt quarterback, and the Michigan State running back. I'm sure you remember his name, Kevin. I can't remember. Yeah, I mean, those guys both pulling out of the Peach Bowl, which is a pretty high-level bowl. I think it's a clear indication that the college football postseason is broken, and that and again, I'm not throwing this just on them, because let's not forget that Brian Kelly changed jobs in the middle of the college football postseason, or in advance of the college football postseason. Would Brian Kelly have taken the LSU job when he did if we had an expanded 12-team playoff and Notre Dame were more or less assured of being a part of it? Would he have been able to? Would Notre Dame have allowed him to, in a sense, because he does have a contract? I mean, there are lots of things that are wrong about the college football postseason and that would be repaired if you had an expanded playoff. And whether it's 8 teams or 12 teams, it's time that we get there, and we get there with automatic qualification. And we remember Kenny Pickett played the ACC championship. So if Pitt had won that game and qualified automatically for the postseason, for the national tournament, a chance to win a national championship, there is no way he would not play, because he'd already established his NFL status as a draft pick before the ACC championship, but he played because it was a real championship. But the Peach Bowl is just a game, and a game he doesn't need to play in, that he could get injured in. I believe that the injury risk is overstated in a game like that. I don't criticize someone for not playing, but I do think that a lot of the media can stop telling people they're fools for playing. You play because you want to play, and so those who do play, I think is the right thing to do. But for those who don't play, I can't criticize them, because the playoff system put them, the college football postseason put them in this position to make these decisions. Do I play in this game that doesn't really add up to anything, or do I protect myself and my draft status and all the rest by not competing?
Yeah, I agree, Kevin. It's the post game. Other than the college football playoffs, it's kind of broken, like Mike said. It's just not what it was, and it's not going to be that. But I kind of knew that when we started making all these changes with college athletics. College sports is just not going to be what it was, period, in the past, because it's changed. Now they're getting paid. I know that later on we'll talk about Xavier Johnson being booed, which I agree with. It's not cool to boo college kids, but it used to be because people would say they're not getting paid. Well, they're getting paid now. So do they, when they don't deliver or whatever? I mean, certain people could say, hey, I gave towards NIL. I deserve the right to boo or whatever. I don't know, but it's a bad deal.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett will miss out on that bowl swag. You know what I mean? Like those bags that they give those. You know what I mean? Maybe a bag of peaches or something like that, or whatever. No, but yeah, I think back to that. Who was that tight end from Michigan, Jake Butt, that blew out his knee, right? And he was going to be a first or a second round pick,
right?
I think that scared a lot of people, even though injury risk is minimal and it can happen anywhere. But to happen in that kind of a game when you have an NFL future, I think that's what people are scared of.
Yeah, Jeffrey Simmons, who spent Sunday afternoon tearing the Steelers' poor offensive line apart, blew his knee out in training for the draft. I believe he played in his bowl game. I believe he played for Mississippi State. He played in his bowl game and then tore his knee up in training for the draft. So it can happen anytime. It does scare people when they see things like there was a Notre Dame player. I think he was a tight end who played against Ohio State in a bowl game about 3, 4, 5 years ago and blew his knee up. And it happens. And when it happens on TV, it does scare people. I don't think the risk is all that much greater to play in that game than it is to train for the draft or to really just about anything. You do carry some risk. But I understand why those who don't play, because you also carry the risk of underperforming.
I just think the point being, though, training for the draft is one thing. It serves a purpose. Playing in a meaningless game is another thing. That's what I mean. I think that's the whole point of it. It's like, why would you put yourself at risk for a game where, you'll get some bull swag and, they can maybe celebrate the win. But, the flip side of it is you're abandoning your teammates, right? That's kind of, and it's a team game. Mike Leach has been very vocal about that, but
I think that's why, for a Pickett, somebody like that, I mean, hey, he took them to the mountaintop. They won an ACC championship. They've never won a conference championship at Pitt, I don't think, before, because they weren't in they were only in the Big East for, Big East football for 15 years or whatever. They might have won one somewhere along the way. I'm not sure they did. If they won one, it's only been one. So he takes them to an ACC championship and then he leaves. I think you can say, hey, I did everything I could. And so I if you want to be with your teammates and you want to play that game, great. But if you feel that it has more downside than upside, then I totally understand that. I just don't like when media members more or less campaign for players not to play. Say it's foolish to play. Look, it's never foolish to compete. That's what you're out there for. But if you feel the risk reward is out of balance, I totally get it.
And I don't think they should be weighing in, period. It's none of their business. It's not their, I am as opinionated as anybody, but that's on them. That's their decision.
Personal
That's their
decision.
dealing with their team. As Kevin mentioned, there's so many things that goes in. That's them, man. They have put that work in. That's not something that I mean, not that I don't have an opinion about it, but it's not to the point to where I'm like, you should do this and you should do that. That's crap. But we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NCAA and North Carolina State. NCAA washing their hands, like I've been saying, of basically doing anything. I'm not sure what they're going to be doing, but hey, well, we'll be back right after this.
Can you see the banner, Jim?
The Southern Stone.
No, the break time banner.
Yes.
Did you just want to go long on that one?
If I text you when they text me, can you answer the phone? I'll get Josie now. We're in
No.
break. If I text you when they
It was up
text
there for a little while, but that's all right.
Well, you only went
me,
like 8.5
you
minutes
open
over.
the door for them.
8.5 minutes.
Yes, I had the banner on the screen. For
Dude, you have to come on and say something. I don't always see that. I either you have to text me. Actually, texting me is the best.
I texted you.
Because I saw it and I was wondering, yeah, I should have said something because I saw it and I was wondering like why you were going over so far.
All right. I've got the breaks listed as one at 9:20.
That's for an 8:40 show.
That's
That's
for
for
Monday.
Don Fisher.
Okay, so when should it have been? 9.
9:10.
See, I didn't know what break we were in. All right, so this is supposed to break in 10 minutes. So this is like a 10-minute segment,
Yeah.
or it could be a 10-minute segment. See, that's another thing. I've got two different damn. Oh, I hate these new times. I hate them. And then there's two different ones. You got Mondays, and then you got the rest of the freaking week. And the written right. I got to rewrite those.
Well, what do you look at?
That.
You don't look at the screen.
Yes, but I've got 1,000 things. I've got 1,000 things going on. It's not just that screen. Look, that your block is like this big. I've got so many things that are open that I'm looking at.
All right.
It's just that normally, and I know you don't know because you haven't done it, but just text me because it dings and I'll hear it. But I was looking at the wrong. I was simply looking at the wrong one.
Thirty seconds.
All right.
So this will be a short, like 10-minute segment.
Well, it can be. Yeah, I screwed that up.
Maybe 8 minutes, actually.
I was trying. I saw the break in it, so I'm like leaving gaps.
At least you saw it. 3.
Well, I'm
2,
used to get.
1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Speed Radio, coming to you on this Tuesday. That means Kevin Brockway with me, as well as Mike DeCourcy, the senior editor for the Sporting News. And one of your latest pieces, Mike, something I've talked about, and it's just crazy. But to me, the NCAA is just doing the Pontius Pilate thing, and they've washed their hands of pretty much everything. Your latest piece, a meager NCAA state punishment, shows NCAA's new enforcement body is playing the same old song. And they are, because they're like, hey, why do anything now? They weren't doing anything before, and they got away with it. Well, now it's even more difficult. So don't even know what the rules are. I really don't. I go back to this Texas thing with the offensive lineman. It's supposed to be a name, image, likeness to a specific player. Well, that's a big generic thing. That's an inducement. So what are the rules, and who's going to enforce them?
Well, I think you need to start with this. the NC State case developed from the FBI investigation of the basketball talent game that became apparent in September of 2017. And after that happened, and the NCAA felt embarrassed, so Mark Emmert appointed Condoleezza Rice to lead a commission on what can be done to fix college basketball. And the commission was a unqualified disaster. And among their recommendations was to start an outside panel to investigate and enforce, adjudicate NCAA rules violations. And so they developed this body. It was introduced a few years ago. It's called the Independent Accountability Review Process, IARP. And so NC State's case wound up in front of the IARP, along with Kansas, Arizona. I believe LSU's in there. Memphis is in there. So all these different cases are in that process. And so yesterday was the first result issued by the IARP. And the punishments that were prescribed by the IARP are more of the same. First of all, there's nothing that showed any ingenuity in terms of how to punish NC State. And they were extraordinarily lenient. And I am not in favor of severely punishing athletes that are there now for what happened 5-6 years ago. I'm not saying that I'm in favor of that. But this is what they got they had 5 major, what they call level 1 violations now, what we used to call major violations. They had 5 of them. The number 1 violation was that it was found by the IARP that an assistant coach had participated in a, for lack of a better term, scheme to pay a recruit $40,000 to enroll at NC State. And that's about as blatant as it gets. I mean, that's a bag. That's what, everybody talks about bags. That's a bag, right? And for that, they got no postseason ban, a $5,000 fine. $5,000. You know what that is? I figured it out. That's 30 regulation basketballs. That's what they skimmed off of. That's the cut they took off of NC State's athletic program. 30 basketballs. There is a 4-year probationary period, which basically means don't do it again, or then you're really going to be in trouble. And we have seen that Oklahoma State got punished more than anybody else in this whole deal with their year out of the postseason that will be enforced this year. And that was because their athletic department was under a warning like that from a football thing that had happened prior. And they had to forfeit, or not, vacate records from 2016-17. There's nothing there. I mean, there's nothing that has any impact on the program at all. Head coach was given a 1-year show cause. Assistant coach was given a 6-year show cause. It's a disgrace. And go ahead.
And my point on the whole postseason ban thing and punishing kids, though, is, I mean, shouldn't there be a little bit of caveat emptor there? Shouldn't these kids, I mean, we're in this information age. Why go to a school that's in jeopardy of possible postseason violation? Shouldn't the kids know that?
Well, here's what I would say.
On the front end, you know what I mean? And shouldn't that impact the recruiting of the school? And if that was the case, maybe it would get the schools to move these things around quicker instead of obfuscating and delaying.
Yeah, I think that's what you're looking at. The feeling that you don't want to necessarily punish the players who are there, but if you were to put a ban in place for 2022, 23, then you're not really punishing them. You're allowing them to go somewhere else, especially now with the transfer rules as they are. You're allowing them to go elsewhere. They could go somewhere else. Now that punishes Kevin Keats, who had nothing to do with this, and they've been trying to do it right. But it does punish the athletic department that was, I mean, let's not forget. I mean, when they hired Mark Gottfried, they were real. The athletic director at the time was really. I don't know what the word I want to use. They had taken a lot of criticism, including from me, for the nature of the search. And when they hired Mark Gottfried, they did a lot of taunting of those of us who'd been critical of them. And so it's not the same AD now, but they did sort of act all superior about the fact that they got Mark Gottfried to be their coach, and then 5 years later or so they wound up in this circumstance.
Yeah, you look at a Louisville who also is in that situation where, and now they've got other crap going on with Chris Mack, so they're also in that position, waiting to have that one. I mean, that's going to end up being 4 years down the road when it finally comes to fruition for them.
Longer. I mean, we're past 4 years. The FBI case was the release, and the press conference was in September of 2017. So we're past.
Cannot believe it's been that long already.
And the information that I have, at least on Arizona, is that there is no expectation of a resolution until the fall of 2022. So that's a legit 5 years.
Scott said the NCAA couldn't control or handle things correctly before NIL, the portal in every aspect. Now they have zero chance. Well, I believe that. I mean, there's so many things now to track. It's how is it even possible, Mike? I mean, it's just not, I don't know, but, to do this, there's just, they didn't do a very good job of it when it was not legal. Now that it's legal and you got to go over, now you got all kinds of loopholes and cracks to get in.
Yeah. You mentioned that thing about the, those program wide, NIL deals. That I am a little uncomfortable with that. That's not really what this was supposed to be about. This was supposed to be about players getting the rights back that they should have had all along, but were withheld from them. And that's not really what this was supposed to be about. Hopefully they can find a way to regulate to some extent. But I think it's going to be very difficult for that to occur without congressional help. And honestly, the Congress right now has bigger problems between the pandemic that continues to be an issue and inflation and things like that. So, I don't think that's necessarily something that that's high on their priority list.
Mike,
Mike, in terms of the fact that you've got Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley now making over $100 million as coaches and players. Right. This NIL deal right now is $391. I think there's a thought now in the mind of, that maybe these players should be getting more and even salaried now based on the money that's being thrown around.
I will say that I am in total disagreement with the idea that they should be employees or considered employees, because where do you draw the line? Is it, my nephew, who's now a college football coach, played Division III football. Was he an employee? Is a high school athlete an employee? Who's an employee? If the coach is a professional, who's an employee? Is everybody that plays an employee? If you play in the band, then are you an employee? Because your band director gets paid to be a band director. Does that make you an employee? Who is an employee and who is not? I mean, I think that's a really difficult line to draw. And so that's why I'm not a believer in that. And I don't think it's advantageous to the athletes to be employees, because at that point, you can get fired. I mean, you're a bad point guard. You're not playing up to standards. Okay, we'll fire you. We'll go get somebody else. I mean, that's
scholarships are renewable, Mike. Players get fired all the time. I think
not like that. I understand. And it's got and remember, Kevin,
Northwestern situation, a few years ago.
The athlete now has a right to ask for a 4-year scholarship if he or she wants to. So if that's what you want, you can get that. So the 1-year renewable thing went out 6 or 7 years ago. I mean, they still do it because it's convenient, but it's not mandatory.
I think now though that if you ask for and are given a 4-year scholarship, that you should have to honor that. Because one school saying, okay, we'll guarantee you your 4 years, but we want you to guarantee that you're going to be here for 4 years.
I think that's fair. I don't think as many there haven't been as many asking for that as one might expect, because they like the players like the flexibility. Same as, when people say, why aren't coaches held to the contracts? Because the schools want to be able to fire coaches. So that's why they, in the NFL, they're very strict about contracts. And so it's a lot harder to fire a coach. But in college, it's easier to fire a coach because they want to be able to move along. So that's why they don't enforce contracts as strictly at the school level, because they want to be able to get rid of coaches if they're not happy with them.
But obviously in college athletics, there are so many out of whack contracts that are just ridiculous that are being written at astronomical numbers. Michigan State comes to mind right off the bat. There's no way in the world you can tell me that what Mel Tucker did on one season with a bunch of transfers was worthy of a $100 million, one of the richest contracts in the history of college football. It just shows how out of whack that college sports has already become.
I don't know. I'd say that I don't like the broad exclamation there. I think that specific schools make specific decisions because of their circumstances, and I don't always agree with those decisions. I think I said a week ago that if I were Penn State, I would be very happy to have James Franklin as my football coach for as long as he's willing to be there. So extending him to 2027 or 2028 or whatever year it was makes perfect sense to me. But giving him an exorbitant raise coming off of a losing season and I think 7-5 this year, that didn't make any sense to me at all. Keeping him, yes, but paying him more to stay, if he wanted to leave, I'd have said, hey, you know what? If somebody's willing to pay you $10 million a year to be their coach, then that's probably where you should be. But we love you here, and we want to keep you here for as long as you'll stay because we think you're terrific and you fit our program, and we like the way you coach.
Well, we love you.
You're worth a 30% raise or whatever.
Well, we love you, and we'd love to keep you here as long as possible, but we've already kept you a little longer than we should have. So what's coming up next for you, Mike?
Well, I have a story coming out about parity in the NFL, a nice story coming out about Raekwon Evans for Florida State, who had to miss his game at Purdue and was missed by the Purdue fan base. They did a very nice gesture for him because he missed the game because his brother passed away of a long-term illness. And so the Purdue fan base did. The Paint Crew is one of my favorite student fan groups. They don't get as much publicity as the Cameron Crazies and such, but it's a good group, and they make Mackey a special place to watch a game. And so they did a really nice gesture for Evans that I'll write about for the next couple days.
Very nice. Appreciate it, and appreciate you greatly, man. I want to wish you and your family a happy, Merry Christmas, happy holidays. We'll see you next week, but not Christmas is coming up next. So hope you get everything you want from Santa Claus.
Well, Merry Christmas, Kevin, Jim, all the listeners. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys, and we will see you next week.
Thank you very much.
We know he wants a Steelers win over the Chiefs for Christmas. That's
it. That's what I want. You bet. Thanks,
Kevin. We'll try to give it to him. Hey, we're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
How long have we got on a break? Gonna go downstairs for
3 minutes.
Okay.
You can see all my studio lights off my glasses.
Your TikTok lights.
TikTok lights? What the hell's a TikTok light?
That's what TikTok dancers use.
Lights?
Yeah, those ring lights.
Well, I've got like 3 different lights going, and I need to open the curtains.
I was going to ask you, do you know what mic Matt Taylor uses? Because that mic
4.
is ridiculously good.
Well, Matt Taylor probably has
Like a state of the art.
well, just a probably has a setup at home like I do. I mean, it doesn't take much. I'll be honest with you.
I know, but his mic was.
It doesn't
extremely
take
clear.
much. It doesn't. It just takes the right microphone.
I know. I was just saying, maybe you could invest in one.
But if
like
you
that.
had me,
Yeah,
you think it sounds better than mine?
Matt Taylor's, yes, absolutely,
Better than this one?
yes.
This is a Heil. This is like a $350 Heil microphone.
I'm not saying yours is bad. I'm just saying his was extremely clear.
I wonder what it's. I wonder if there's. Wow, because this is a pretty nice microphone. So.
Yeah, it
But
sounds.
he sounds excellent when he's on.
Yeah.
He sounds like he's in a studio.
Yeah.
Do I not sound like I'm in a studio?
No, you do, but he just sounds like he's in probably a little better studio
Damn.
because he
that
is the play-by-play
surprises me.
voice of Colts. So
Well, I'm just saying, no, his microphone, I always noticed that, but this is a pretty damn nice microphone and expensive. A Heil.
got under a
Of
minute.
course, I wouldn't mind having one of those Shures.
You're taking a break at 9:50.
Yeah, I got it.
Do
You
you?
have Chronicon this week or no?
I don't have to take a break at 9:50. All we have to do is end at 10:30. When we take that break is irrelevant at the moment.
So do you want to go long on this segment?
It's not. I don't know. It depends on where we are at that time.
Okay.
I don't know what the conversation is going to be like at 10 minutes.
All
We
right.
could be cussing each other out. I'd be getting, you son of a bitch.
Then you get demonetized, which you probably just did for saying that.
No, you don't. Not for that.
10 seconds.
Is that what happens?
I'm pretty sure. Or you get restricted when
That-
it runs the checks
yeah.
on YouTube. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Tuesday. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers joining me. Just finished up with the great Mike DeCourcy. I love talking with him. It's always fun. We can talk about anything, as with you, but always a fun time.
Well, a little good banter back and forth about the whole, college sports issue and where we are with coaching compensation and player compensation and how I think the tide is turning in that regard with regards to, what players should get. Is it? It's going to be interesting to see in the next decade, though, how it impacts attendance, though, too, because I still think there is that old school line of fans that you play for your school, but that's kind of waning now. And I think it's, people look at it as a big business, and schools got greedy, television contracts, apparel deals, the last 20 or 30 years. It's become this $1 billion industry on the backs of athletes that get scholarships right now. They get cost of attendance, so they got a little more spending money. Now they have NIL deals, but that's only, come in the last 10 years.
And I'm wondering about the student following. Indiana has the largest student section in college basketball, 7,000 students. All right. But they're not all in a great place. They're over in, as a matter of fact, they sit next to me, which is freaking annoying as hell. I'm not going to lie because I can't see half the game. But they go all the way up, and then there's probably some in the balconies. I know when I was a student, I was in the balconies. That's not how you get a great home court environment. And I think Indiana's other audience is elderly. So you see where I'm going with that. Assembly Hall is not quite what it used to be, but of course, winning is a big part of that. The not winning. It used to be one of the most daunting places, but that was because you got beat when you went there, not because of the arena. The winning made the arena famous. Bob Knight made the arena famous. The arena itself didn't make itself famous. Is it unique? Yeah, kind of uniquely bad, to be honest with you. And they're not going to build a new one because that $40 million improvement they did however many years back now with the Simon Scotts It's not going anywhere, man. They're not going to just throw that money away. And they really should have, because Indiana is a program that needs I'm not saying a state of the art, but it needs a solid basketball arena. Purdue's got a decent arena. Purdue's arena is as good from a site perspective as it can get. The highest seat possible is way better and was way lower than the media seats I used to sit in. The sight lines, it's just a round, not too big. You talk about a difficult place to play in. That's as difficult a place to play in when they get going. You just heard Mike mention whatever they call the paint zone or whatever. Indiana doesn't have that. They don't have the is zone or the Cameron Crazies. They don't have that. And they have the largest student section in college basketball. I don't know. Is that Indiana's fault? Or is that the students' fault? Do they need to be placed better?
Yeah, but do the Indiana students, do they even have a name or no? Do they call themselves anything?
No, that's what I'm saying.
They haven't really branded. Like, Florida had the Rowdy Reptiles, and they were really good. And I know in Florida, they sat them pretty close. They sat them like way down there on that side.
See, now they do that in one section, but everything else is about the money donors, is about the owed, all of that. And so you don't have students. You don't have it's just not as difficult. I don't think. I think that they need to reconfigure. As bad as the arena is and the seating is, they need to reconfigure the seating. But then you're going to have the season ticket holders complain. But Assembly Hall is just not a good place to go watch a basketball game. It's not.
Yeah, I think it's got its charm, I think, but I do agree that Mackey probably holds the sound better and is a little louder than Assembly is now. Assembly's a little more cavernous, I think, than Mackey. But I think the improvements they made were nice. Certainly they modernized it. I wasn't here before the modernization, but it looks like what they did and what they did with the statues. And
but the only changes were out in the front and all of that stuff. And they added that 76 suite, which doesn't do the fans any good. I don't think there was nothing really added for the fans' benefit other than maybe more bathrooms and a nicer scoreboard. But the fans, the common everyday fan, I don't know what difference they saw.
No, I could go a couple of years ago for Big Ten games. It was pretty. Like Michigan State was really rocking. The Florida State, the ACC Big Ten Challenge a couple of years ago was really rocking. Of course, last year we didn't have fans. This year, St. John's was a decent crowd, but they're playing a lot of these, smaller guaranteed non-conference games. It'll be interesting to see, Big Ten play, what the crowds are going to be like, how loud it's going to be. Mike Woodson has talked a lot about this, about defending home court, and they're 8-0 at home right now. Of course, like I said, who have they really played at home? That's been a challenge. St. John's, maybe Marshall a little bit. They were trailing that game, but it's going to be important to carry that and the atmosphere. I think winning will breed that, and I think the fact that you have a guy like Mike Woodson, who's a former Indiana player too, has ingratiated himself to the fans. But it'll be interesting to see once the Big Ten play gets rolling in January, what kind of crowds do they get, how loud it is, what kind of impact the students make, and the students will not be in town for those first two Big Ten home games against Ohio State, which is going to be a big game, and against Minnesota. But then after that, you got the Purdue game on the 20th. The students will be back, and that's going to be a huge one. And that should be a pretty raucous atmosphere, I would think.
The students, the current students at Indiana University, they haven't seen a winner.
Yeah,
they have not seen a win. They have not seen. I'm just talking about a winning team. So there's that. They had 4 years of Archie Miller, which that's as bad as it gets. I'm sorry, it is. IU basketball was already down. It was when they hired Archie Miller. That's why that happened. And it just kind of sucked to an even worse depth and didn't think that was possible. But so now you've got all these students that the only thing they know about the history is what they can read. They can look at the banners and all, but it's just not quite the same. And that's not going to return until they start getting a couple of big time wins, I think. You've got
How
to
was it when
beat
the
some good teams.
Yeah, when the Crean era was rolling, with the Christian Watford shot and 2012, 2000. How was it during that era? Was it pretty good?
Oh, it was rocking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, winning makes a difference, man. Winning big games makes a big difference, of course.
Yeah.
But even then, you have to rely on that to sustain that. Where I promise you, just a slightly better. If it was a better configured arena, you'd have people coming all the time. Nobody wants to come and sit in those damn balcony seats if they have a balcony seat or a seat in row 46 up in the corner when it's I don't know, either a crap game or whatever. It's just not as inviting to you to come.
Well, let's not forget giving up the Crossroads Classic too is opening up a chance to do those home and homes to get the more marquee games in. You're going to get a Kansas here. You're going to get some more marquee non-conference games here. Hopefully ACC, Big Ten. It seems like Indiana, like the last two ACC Big Tens, they've been on the road, right? So maybe hopefully next year will be the year that they get a home game in that, and they got a home in the Gavitt games, but St. John's was okay, but not quite that, not quite a big time opponent that maybe you'd want to see in terms of, from one of the Power 5 conferences.
Calvin Smith says, do you really want students closer after the booing of Johnson and the situation with TJD's ex-girlfriend? I don't know that that's going to make a difference, but we will talk about that when we come back. Chronic Hoosier will join us. Oh, we're not ready for a break, are we? Is it break time?
Yes, it's time for a break.
Okay. It sure is. Let's do that, and we'll be back with Chronic Hoosier right after this.
And also, what people don't remember about that Trace ex-girlfriend situation is that Barstool St. John's started that whole thing. So that's their fault that happened.
Barstool St. John's.
Hello, Chronic.
What up?
Barstool St. John's.
But Indiana exasperated.
Yeah.
Oh, the students right up on it, baby.
And the student section is called the Crimson Guard, I think.
Well,
Crimson Guard. Okay.
Yeah.
that's like that's like a part of the student athletic board, I think, or something. I don't know. That's not a nickname. These are all nicknames that are the iZone, the Paint Crew, the Cramming Crazies. Those are all nicknames.
Well, what, the Crimson Guard isn't a nickname?
Nope. It's like some kind of
It is, but
Chronic
it's
probably
manufactured. Athletics put the name on it. Every student
okay.
section on campus is known as the Crimson Guard, except for the soccer supporters who are known as the Hoosier Army. But it's a very plastic branding label that was applied to the entire student sections.
Yeah.
I'll probably use that clip in this segment, Keegan.
Okay, just cue it in and I'll get it ready.
Chronic, we'll talk about the booing of Xavier.
You don't want to get booed. Don't play shitty basketball.
Hey,
I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. You want to sit here and tell me that we got the most educated fans in the nation? That's great. Understand they're going to call bullshit when the basketball is bullshit.
yeah, we've got that clip. We'll run that and see what. But that's one of the. Well, go ahead.
You want to lead with it?
No.
Okay.
I'll introduce it first.
Okay.
Because I can't tell because when we come back, there's music that's normally playing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to work with the editing in of the music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'd rather I get cut off than what Woody. Or we can.
Your
You
show.
do the edit. You do the editing. Just don't cover it up with music.
No, I don't. It will be in the show. All I do is find where the breaks are, adding the ad breaks, the intro, and the Sound of Madness outro, and then the show's done. So this wouldn't make a difference.
So there's no music in the middle?
No. 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you here on this Tuesday. I hope you're having a good day. Looks like nice out there at the temperature down a little bit. Chronic Hoosier joining us now. Kevin Brockway with me. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, all things considered, it being the darkest day of the year and all that. I'm doing well. Happy to be here. Glad to be back.
Is this the equinox?
I believe it is. If it's not today, it's
Okay.
tomorrow. So it's December 21st to 22nd.
But the positive thing is that that's a glass half empty, baby, because the half full side is tomorrow starts getting brighter every day, right?
You got it.
Love that. How's the knee doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. I am doing absolutely awesome. I'm getting to the point where I forget I had it done.
I was having a conversation right before you joined about Assembly Hall. It's for no reason, but when they did the $40 million in expansion, that was just a huge mistake, in my opinion. They should have just said, all right, we're going to start building a new arena behind it or wherever. And they need Indiana basketball needs a better basketball arena to play in my opinion. And I think that they could be a much more dominant force if they had a better arena.
It's an old question. It's a recently revived question following the renovations done to Assembly Hall. I'm not going to call it by its donor's name, but I think there's some beauty in Assembly Hall's design. If you go back and read the history of it, it was designed to be theater, where the vast majority of the seats have good sight lines, have good angles on the sidelines rather than on the baselines. And if you talk to opposing coaches, opposing teams, they will tell you just how incredibly intimidating that layout is to have 17,000 plus fans just stacked on top of you, and how the acoustics in that gym are unique to anything else in the country because it's just noise raining down on you from both sides. There's certainly some to be desired about it. I won't stand for the sightline argument because I've sat in every damn seat in that gym, or at least in every section. There's not a bad seat in the hall. There's some where you might lose sight of the scoreboard, or at least the hanging one over the center court. But you can see a scoreboard anywhere. There's no obstructed views except for behind the baskets. All that said, it's unfortunate that the department decided to forego the most intimidating environment possible, the amount of revenue possible, by putting all the high donors closest to the stands, or to the floor, I should say, and moving the students up into the main level primarily and into the balconies. If they really wanted to reward the students for their support, if they really wanted to maximize the intimidation factor of it, you'd put your loudest fans right on the court, which is going to be your student body. And they've made some choices along the way, and this is the result you get up. You don't have that effect like you see at the ISM, like you see at Cameron Indoor, and gyms around the country, the Chrysler Center for that matter, where they deliberately stack the student body right on the floor, engulf the opposing teams in that mass of students, and really turn it up. That's a choice Indiana, went the different direction with. I don't agree with it. No different than I agree with putting the press up in the nosebleeds. I think that was kind of bunk, but we're chasing that almighty dollar, brother.
Yeah, well, and to give you an even better indication of Assembly Hall, someone had traveled to Raleigh, North Carolina back in 1952 when an arena down there, the J.S. Dorton Arena, opened, and it made an impact on them because that would ultimately be the design that Assembly Hall was based off of. It ended up being a cattle auction house down there, but there you go. That's how old this design is. A design based off in the 50s, and man, this is 70 years later. So I would think that they can make more money by having suites, by having a typical arena. Why don't they do concerts here? I mean, you're telling me with a university full of students and other town people, you can't have concerts in this town at that arena? I don't understand that.
Have you ever seen a show there?
I have not. It's probably sucks unless you're on one side.
That's the really funny thing about the acoustics of the hall is while it is definitely loud on the floor, when you reverse the travel of sound, it actually produces horrible acoustics. I mean, terrible. It's big, it's cavernous. You got stuff bouncing off the bottom of the balconies because the speaker stacks are mainly down on the floor, and it's kind of opposite of the way those sight lines were designed for a concert. Generally, you want the entertainment to be facing the majority of the fans straight on, and you want the sound to travel that way. When you put a concert in Assembly Hall, either you have to do it where you're only using one side of the gym, or the bulk of your seating, the vast majority of your seating is to the sides of the stages. So it just makes for a really wonky experience.
Yeah, it is what it is, but it's not going anywhere, Kevin. I don't think there's going to be, since they made all that investment a few years ago, there's not going to be any changes. So that's that. And I was also talking about, earlier, let's, Keegan, before you go anywhere, let's hit that clip of Coach Mike Woodson talking about the booing of Xavier Johnson the other night.
In this ball game where Xavier Johnson was booed, and I know that upset you.
Yeah, that irritates me. And I just want to send a shout out to all Hoosier Nation fans, man, because, again, we got to ride this journey together. Xavier catches a lot of hell from me as a coach, and, none of our players need that. Listen, we're one big family. Hoosier Nation has always been a family, will always be. I can't tell you how to come to the game and react, but booing is not the way to go for me. Let's be positive. This team hadn't been together that long, Don. We've had 14 games together as a group, 3 as exhibition games that don't count. So, we're still trying to learn one another, man, and they're trying to deal with me as a coach, and that ain't always easy. So when I look at it, the booing part of it was disturbing because I'm not used to seeing that or hearing that from, our Indiana fans, because they are the best fans in the world. I've always said that. I just need them to support what we do, support our players, keep them pumped up, man. Let me give them hell. That's where it should come from, not our fans. So.
Yeah, I don't recall, maybe in my almost 50 years of doing this, I don't recall maybe only one other player ever in Indiana that got booed. So it's not something that normally happens, and I'm glad it doesn't, and I hope it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, me too.
There was Don Fisher and Coach Mike Woodson talking about the booing of Xavier Johnson. I wonder who, because Don said the same thing on my show in the morning or yesterday. I wonder who he was talking about that got booed, Chronic.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, we've had I guarantee it's been in the last 5-6 years, probably in the last 4 years, quite frankly. But you know what? I get that. I get that Woody doesn't want to hear his guys catching hell, but let's be honest. You want to sit here and credit Indiana fans for being the best in the nation. We take pride in being the smartest in the nation. Don't expect them though not to see when the basketball is bad. It's really bad. You go back to the Wisconsin game and Woody talked post game about Xavier needing to recognize when he's got it and when he doesn't. And when he doesn't have it, he needs to find other options. Well, fast forward 2 weeks, go up to Banker's Life or whatever we call it these days. And, sure as hell, we're in the same situation where Xavier doesn't have it, but Xavier's not recognizing that. Indiana fans don't appreciate bad basketball accordingly. And, that may be unfamiliar to Woody because since Woody left campus, it ain't been the same basketball. And it's been particularly bad in the last several years. That's why Woody's here now. And quite frankly, with Indiana fans recognizing IU's deficiency at the guard spot for the last many years, don't expect them just to forget, even though there's a new regime, even though you got some new players. They're not having that. And, I hate to see it. You don't ever want to see our boys taking grief from our own fans. But let's be honest, man, if you're going to shoot 3 for 11 with 4 TOs, you're probably going to hear it when you keep chucking them shots up, quite frankly. So it's an unfortunate situation. But don't play Indiana fans for fools. I'll say that much, because they do know basketball. They know when the basketball is good. They know when it's bad. And, at the end of the day, it's unfortunate. They paid their ticket, and they're going to cheer when it's good, and they're going to let you know when they don't think it's so good. But I do know for a fact we've experienced that. I'll research it here in a little bit, because I know it's all over Twitter when we've heard similar reactions to similar play.
Yeah, one of the things I used to say is, about booing college players is, well, they don't get paid and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's quite not the case right now. And especially when you got an NIL guy and I'm not saying that Xavier this is not that case, but let's say a Quentin Ewers or whatever. If he goes out and plays horribly, he's $1 million damn player. You think they don't deserve to boo him if he throws 5 interceptions or something? I don't know.
Well, I do know for a fact it happened to Indiana State and IPFW. Those come immediately in mind right now. I don't know exactly who got it. It could have been a collective effort, but that ain't going to stand at Assembly Hall, and not now, not ever, not in Woody's days, not in my kids' days to come.
Nope. Indiana takes on a couple of more non-con games here tomorrow night, and then right after the Christmas break, around New Year, before they break into the Big Ten season. So it is the Christmas time. It's kind of a wonky time period for the players right now as they are trying to balance all this. School's out, a little break. They just finished up with finals. You've got the holidays, but the holidays aren't really the holidays to athletes.
No, and this is the time of year where you do see some of those weird halves coming up. And I would brace folks, because it happens every single year. You get these break games and everybody shows up asleep. And we kind of saw that early, it felt like, in the Notre Dame game, at least when it came to shot selection. But this is a great opportunity for Woody to play with some rotations, get some guys some run, and really iron out whatever wrinkles he feels like he got left, because we're less than 2 weeks away from jumping into a grinder that's not going to relent for the next 2+ months.
Have you had a podcast out lately?
No, man, we have had a very difficult time here recently linking up with my guys over there. Yeah, Zach. Dustin's been filling in admirably. Probably gives far better content than what I can. But that's what happens when you pay a fella to do that kind of thing. But no, we're likely going to link back up here over the break, with everybody getting little breather time here, and then, like I said, getting geared up for the start of Big Ten here on the 2nd.
Let's see. 5 Lift says, we had a comment. We have some nice recruits for the 23 class that can still rescind their commitments if the fans aren't supportive of the team, i.e. Armand Franklin. I don't know about that. I mean, I think you got to be a little thicker skinned now once you get to this level. But I don't know that they ran him off. I don't think that you can't pay attention to social media if you're an athlete, in my mind. You've got to be able to block that stuff out. I don't agree with that. I think you got to grow up and just put that off to the side, Kevin.
Yeah, I too that. I think nowadays when you're dealing with Division I athletes, you're on scholarship, you're getting NIL money now, you're getting cost of attendance money. This is big time college basketball, and this is what you part of what you sign up for. But kids nowadays, it's very interesting, to take that. People react differently to that, and you've got to be certainly mentally strong. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stress. But I think that Chronic's point is the fan frustration. It's not like they didn't see it in the Wisconsin game, Xavier Johnson taking too many shots. And in this situation, it was kind of like a repeat of that. And, maybe you're a little frustrated, the coaching staff too, for not reining him in. I've seen a lot of comments on that as well. As, you've got, why does Parker Stewart only get 4 shots when he's shooting 49% from 3 and Xavier Johnson is chucking him up? I
put that on Parker Stewart. I got to put that on Parker Stewart. Chronic, I've talked about that yesterday. I think he needs to work a little harder at getting a shot because he is such a good shooter. And Xavier needs to do a better job of trying to find him and not trying to find his shot, because there were a couple times where obviously he's putting it when you put a ball up, and I saw Miller Kopp do it a time or two, way too early in the shot clock. Just why do that? But Miller Kopp doing it is one thing. Xavier doing it is a different one. But I think that they have to. It's a combination. They need to work harder to find Xavier or Parker, but Parker needs to work a little harder on getting a shot because he's just a pure shooter, man.
Did we lose him?
Well, we lost him. Yeah, we lost him. So I think he's getting ready to say he agreed. But he'll come
Parker,
back.
Yeah, Parker needs to be more assertive. I agree. He needs to, and he needs to find, be a little bit more of a volume shooter just because he's so valuable to this team in terms of his ability to light it up. And we'll see if Miller Kopp has another Syracuse game in him too. That was interesting. I mean, he was great in the Carrier Dome that one night, hitting shots. And if you can get both those guys going at the same time, along with the inside play, you've really got something. But we've already seen, certainly by the percentages, the fact that you're up at 37% now compared to 32, 33%, that those two have provided a significant upgrade to the perimeter shooting.
Let's see. Scott says if the second point guard can't hit a shot and the third point guard can't guard, you get stuck with point guard one and his chucker mentality. Well, there's some truth to that, but I think you can also say, hey, dude, I need you to facilitate more than I need you to shoot. But we'll talk about that when we come back. Indiana Sports Beat back with more right after this. Oh man, daggone it! My new how much time we got?
Over 2 minutes.
Tuesday morning, it's like 25 degrees, right? It's the most beautiful place in the world. I'm just the 36th in the world, but I don't even see it. But you know what this is? It's the best place in the world. Kids are sleeping. Kids are getting into college life really early, staying up late and sleeping too. So I might just leave up here and see if they can get the Korean years. I'm just so happy to be here. I'm just so happy.
Got a minute.
The new Chronic Hoosier Christmas card has arrived.
Yeah.
Brand. Let's go. Thirty seconds.
No yawning allowed, Keegan.
Yeah, I know. Had to wake up at like 5 a.m. this morning for a dumb reason, but 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Tuesday. It's Christmas week. Hope everyone is ready. Got my new Christmas card from Chronic Hoosier. There's the new. So if you haven't seen that, you get those every year. Very cool. There's may your cup and heart always be full this season. Chronic, Tijon, and Liger.
Yeah.
Great thought to add that with the.
I'm not a big Christmas guy. It brings back a lot of bad memories to me. I'm not a huge. I'm kind of a
What?
Oh yeah, no. I've had a lot of personal stuff. Let's put it that way. Have happened on Christmas that a lot of bad karma.
What?
But,
Do I look like Dr. Phil? We got some Santa Claus issues something going on or something.
Yeah, I've got some baggage. You know what I mean? But
wow. So we're gonna turn this into a what? How can we make you feel better? What? Lie down if it makes you more comfortable there.
No, I think that. No, the good thing is I am going back to New York and I'm seeing family, so that's going to be fun. And Christmas in the city is always fun. I'm leaving Thursday and I'll be gone next week, but I'll be back in time to cover the next game on the 29th. So and that's always cool. Going into the city, Rockefeller Center. I'm going to see my godkids and see some high school friends and stuff. That'll be nice. That will be nice.
Well, stay away from 34th. You don't run into any Christmas miracles on 34th Street.
Exactly.
While you're up there.
But yeah, I've always been more of a spring person. Spring's my birthday, beginning of baseball season, and that's my rebirth.
I meant to talk a little bit about this. Kelvin asking, what are the odds of Lander making it past the new year? I don't understand why there are so many questions about Lander. I really don't.
If something would have happened by now because it's the end of the semester if he was going to transfer somewhere. So the fact that something didn't happen, I don't think anything is in the works,
Well, I mean, first of all, why? Why would he transfer? Because he's not playing?
Yeah.
Well, guess why he's not playing?
Yeah.
Does Mike Woodson seem like a guy who's not going to play you if he thinks that you're going to benefit or you're ready or whatever? He doesn't strike me that way.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, maybe that point is should you have redshirted him this year? That could have been an option to go, and who knows if that was discussed or not. But it turned out you did need him because of the fact that Finney went down with the injury, and you may need him again because Finney is a little bit of an injury-prone guy. We're going to get Finney later today, interview him, and he did a really nice job in that Crossroads Classic game, 6-5 and 5 assists. I think it was his best game of the season, and he's going to be an important guy going forward in terms of his, him accepting his role of being that sixth man coming in and providing good defense. And I don't think he's ever going to be the scorer that people envision him, but he could carve out a really nice and really important veteran role on this team. As the backup point guard and as a guy that can come in and slide over and give you some perimeter defense on nights when Miller Kopp is struggling shooting the basketball. That's what he did in the Notre Dame game.
And Christian Lander, I mean, he's obviously a very, very talented kid. He's as fast with the ball as anyone they have on the team. But there's other issues. Defense is his kryptonite, and that is paramount for Mike Woodson, is playing defense on this team, and Christian just isn't there just yet. So,
I mean,
ultimately, Kevin, he has a redshirt year really with COVID.
Yeah, that's true. And you do have that year that you can later on. But Miller Kopp's a defensive liability too, though. But I think the difference is, Miller could go and score 28 in a game like he did against Syracuse. I don't know if Lander has that kind of offensive ability at this point in his stage of his career to cancel out his defense, or that 3-point shooting ability. He can't hit some threes, but yeah, Christian's got to continue to develop, and I think didn't Don Fisher say that he came on the pregame show and he had a really good attitude about it. So
he said it yesterday on our show he had talked to him, and Michael's pointing it out here, that he said he sounded optimistic and had a great attitude. And I think that's what he needs to do. He needs to stay coachable and learn. He got here too soon. He shouldn't have been here. I mean, this should be his first year here. And he would be learning and going through it. It's just he's been in the spotlight a lot more, and unfairly, I think a lot has been put on him because, with the Archie thing coming out early, all of that, he's a 5-star, all that extra pressure. He needs to just chill and learn, be coached.
Yeah, no question. And I think too with Lander's situation, again, it's a case of the kid was a 5-star coming out of high school. There was a lot of expectations, a lot of hype, and I think too, with the Xavier Johnson situation, get back to that and him being booed, right? There's probably perception in this fan base too, and I see it with Finney too, is the outsider, right? Xavier Johnson, a transfer from Pitt, he's from Arlington, Virginia, versus the 2 Indiana guys in Lander from Evansville and Finney from West Lafayette. They want to see the Indiana guys, you know what I mean? Especially when a guy like Xavier Johnson is tucking up bad shots. They're wondering, well, why is he starting ahead of Lander? But Xavier Johnson is a guy that has proven ability in a major conference of being a scoring point guard. And he can get to the basket, and he can do things that Finney and Lander can't do in terms of his ability to blow by people and make plays. And so I think Xavier Johnson is your guy going forward. He is the best of the 3, even though his decision-making is questionable at times. I think at his best, he's still better than the 2 other guys that you have that happen to be Indiana guys. And maybe that rubs some fans in the state the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the very next game. What was his stat line? I think it was exactly what it should have been. What was I forget what game I was looking at for Xavier Johnson, where he took 9 shots. He was like 4 of 9, which is probably where he should be. He should not be taking the most shots on the team. There's no question about that. I just don't, especially perimeter shots. I mean, you've got to get those for Parker. You've got to get those for Miller Kopp, those guys that shoot the ball better. I don't know that Indiana's working hard enough to get that done in this particular offense.
Well, I think too, Jim, though, there's always that temptation, and coaches always have this temptation. And I remember back to the Billy Donovan days, they used to have this player named Dan Werner who the fans hated and was terrible, but he always defended him in taking open shots, even though he was a 31% 3-point shooter, and the fact that the best shot is the guy that's open, right? So you hear that, and sometimes coaches prescribe to that theory, but sometimes there's a reason why they leave you open, because you're a 31% 3-point shooter, right? So that's almost taking the easy way out. And I think Xavier is falling into that trap where he's getting these really good open looks from the inside out play with Trace Jackson Davis. You think it's going to be a good shot, but there's a reason why they're leaving you open. The scouting report is saying that playing the percentages, and maybe that's also a problem with Miller Kopp and Parker Stewart right now in terms of the fact that they're getting more attention from defenses now because the book is out on them. And so Xavier is getting a lot of these open looks. If the strength of your game is not 3-point shooting, then you've got to maybe pass up those open looks and do something else with the basketball.
You definitely can't be taking 9 of them when your best shooter is taking 4 and hitting 75%, and you're hitting whatever 2 of 9 is, roughly 23% or something.
And that's and that's incumbent on the coaching staff, finding ways to spring Parker free and calling more plays on him. It's also incumbent on Parker to work harder, as you mentioned, to get open and to be more assertive. That's something that they're going to have to figure out. And Dane Fife was talking about that a little bit in the coaches show too, that, they know that. They know that that's something that they've got to work on. But, I think Dane mentioned in the coaching show too, the fact that look around the country right now, who's playing really good offense. Purdue is, and you want to know why Purdue is playing good offense? Because they have a cohesive team that's been together for 2 or 3 years. This is a team that you've got 3 new starters transferring in from other programs right now. So maybe give them, and I know it comes across as an excuse, but maybe give them the benefit of the doubt, give them a little more time, and we'll see in mid-January and February if this can, and that's what Woodson's been saying all along. We haven't been together too long, and there's something to be said for that cohesion. But that's how you build a program, in my opinion, and that's what makes teams great. Are those teams that stick together for a few years?
Absolutely. And they've got a lot of good things going. They're shooting the ball well. They're shooting the 3-point ball well, which is something we have not said about an Indiana team in 5 years or longer. So that is a very positive aspect. And doing that with and having these other things that aren't together yet, it's a positive, because if those things come together and you already have the other ingredients, the shooting, the inside, outside, then you have the opportunity to be a really, really formidable team in late January or February.
Trace Jackson is playing at an All-American level, and he's leading the Big Ten in block shots. And Race Thompson, 5 straight games in double figures. He's playing the best that he's played in his career. You've got 2 inside guys right now that are productive. You're shooting the 3 well. So you've got some things going for you there. But 2, I mean, let's level of competition. And I do know that Notre Dame did beat Kentucky and they had the emotional win at home, but I mean, they're still a 5-4 or 4-5 team. So let's see, they faced that ranked team in Wisconsin on the road. They had that game in the first half. They let that game slip away. They faced the Syracuse team that, let's face it, they're kind of struggling too, but they had to play them up there in the Carrier Dome and nearly pulled that one out. I mean, your 2 losses this season, you're 9-2. Your 2 losses have both been 1-possession games, basically, that have come down to the wire. So they haven't got blown out. They're undefeated at home. I think there's a lot of positives right now, but we'll see when the rubber hits the road in January. I think that interesting test will be that Ohio State game on January 6th, where you're going to get a chance for another ranked team, but this time you get them in Assembly Hall at home. Let's see what you do there. And if you can knock off that, team and take care of business before that, then, maybe you sneak into the top 25 by then.
Miller Kopp is another one. I mean, I don't want to, he's been a slightly disappointing addition to the team. Still kind of waiting for him to assert himself with his experience. He's played 3 years in the Big Ten. Haven't quite seen that yet.
Yeah, I think with Miller, I think it'll come, and I mean, that Syracuse game was certainly pretty impressive. That was the one game where he really kind of broke out, and I think that, he's an interesting guy, but I think Mike has shown when he's not going and when it's not his night that he will bring in other guys. And the curious thing to me about Miller is I don't understand why in late game situations, and I saw this again in the Notre Dame game, and I talked about this in the St. John's game, why you don't have him on the floor in late game situations to close out games from the free throw line, because he's such a good
because let me tell you, he's shooting 94% from the free throw line this season. And, kind of backtracking on what I just said, as I look at his season numbers, he's shooting 40% from the field this season and 41% from 3-point, 94% at the free throw line. So maybe I was off on that, and he's not getting enough opportunities. Maybe he needs to step up and take more shots.
Yeah, no, and I think he's getting his opportunities, but I think too he's a guy that, shooters are not going to be on every night, and you're going to have peaks and valleys. And I think that you get on these little rolls where you get some really good perimeter shooting, and then you go through lulls, and you have to kind of deal with those ups and downs. But I think what's good about this team again is I think you're starting to develop a little bit of depth where, hey, if it's not Miller Kopp's night, let's bring in Jordan Geronimo and trade defense for offense and win a game 60-50. I think you're seeing that, and I think you're seeing the coaching staff of Woodson really deploy that very well. Let's bring in Rob Finney. And now, you're going to have Tamar Bates back too. He's a guy that can give you offense off the bench as well. He's another guy that you can bring in if it's not Miller Kopp's night. What you want to do is you want to have as many good players as possible. So if a guy like Miller Kopp, a guy like Parker Stewart, even is having an off night, you can bring in somebody else and they step up and they pick up the slack. That's a team, and a team finds different ways to win also. And the best teams, the national championship teams that I covered at Florida, were those teams where if the shooting wasn't working, they won with defense, they won with rebounding. There was one facet of the game that could carry them if other facets weren't working. And that's what Indiana, that's what you try to develop, and that's how you build a championship team, a team that can win in so many different ways. And I don't know if Indiana is there yet, but you're starting to develop a team that's at least more balanced where, if you can get that outside production on some nights and you get that inside production on other nights. It was the first 2 years when I covered this team where if you didn't get the inside production and Trace wasn't going, you were dead in the water.
Absolutely. What you got coming up next, Kevin?
Yeah, I've got a story coming out today about all the COVID issues around college basketball, the Big Ten and the rest of the country and how it's impacting. And also a little bit on these big money coordinators in Big Ten Notebook also. And I think Walt Bell is making about $800,000 a year, right? And something else we didn't mention football-wise, right? Indiana, Virginia, home and home series, right?
Damn, meant to talk about that.
So that's another good non-conference schedule for football and something that will be I think something that will be beneficial for the Hoosiers down the road.
Yeah, that's an ACC team, and it's one that's not too far. Anybody from the ACC is not too formidable. So I think you're going to see this year in, year out now, a P5 non-con team. They might as well get used to that. So, but it's been another fun day, man. I cannot thank everybody enough. Big thanks, of course, to Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers. Make sure you give him a follow there at Kevin Brockway G1. Also, Mike DeCourcy from senior editor from the Sporting News, BTN, and Fox. Chronic Hoosier joined us as well. So always great to spend time with him. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Thanks to Keegan for filling in for John, the producer, who will be back tomorrow. And I will too. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. Go out and have a great day. I will see you on the radio.